The entire process of opening a brewery in Wisconsin has been nothing short of a nightmare for me and my family. We were told, you're either not going to get your license or another option might be to get a divorce. We love our kids to death. They're everything. It's such an insane thought that they could potentially keep us from being able to open a business because they exist and because a marriage exists. I didn't want to work for the man, but the man came for me. My name is Will Glass. I'm the president and founder of the Brewing Project in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So out of high school, I started looking at what I wanted to go to school for. Wasn't really sure. The military had been a part of my family's history, so I looked at joining the Marine Corps, and that's what I ended up doing. So I went in the Marine Corps in 2004 and got out in 2012. It was a lot of hard work. It was just learning grit and really kind of that internal fight to keep things moving forward. One of the things that I learned while I was in the Marine Corps was that I didn't really want to work for anybody else. I joke a lot that the only idiot that I want to answer to is the one in the mirror. So the first business that we opened was the Firehouse. It was a tavern. It was a craft beer bar. I spent a lot of time on the other side of the bar talking to customers about the beers that they wanted. And I saw this void, I saw this niche where I thought, why don't we open a brewery? What we were told by the state of Wisconsin is that if we separated our entities, if we separated our interests, that we would be fine. We followed those instructions. We went through all of the things to make the business that we started her business and the business that I wanted to start my business. So we went forward. We got our federal permits. We then went back to the state of Wisconsin, said, hey, here's the marital property agreement. And then we got stonewalled by the state. We couldn't get a response. I was saying, hey guys, I've got employees, I've got $500,000 of equipment sitting here idle. We actually ran out of money twice. My grandma pitched in $5,000 to help things continue on. Out of the blue, I opened the P.O. box, pulled a letter out, and it said that we were not going to be able to get our permit because my wife had a bar and I had a brewery, and that was not allowed, despite the fact that we had already been told, if you do these things, you'll be fine. And it was a nerve-wracking experience to look at what is essentially your life savings at that time, potentially being totally lost. So when I was asking the representative from the Department of Revenue, what can I do now to make this happen? His proposal came down to, if you were divorced, you would probably be able to get that permit. And we actually talked about it. And then we got a letter in the mail saying that even isn't going to get it done because you have children in common. There would be a fiduciary responsibility even between former spouses with child support, and we no longer would be able to get our permit because of that flow of money. It turned into a situation where is the only way we can get this done is if I give up any custody of my kids even after we get divorced. That's not something that somebody should be asked to do. And that's not something we were willing to do.
I never heard anything like this. The fact that a state bureaucrat would have the audacity to suggest something as egregious as that, it's beyond the pale. One of the most egregious examples of big businesses leveraging their political contacts to harm their competitors happens in the alcohol regulatory space. Back in 2011, a coalition consisting of the largest brewer in the state, the Tavern League, and the liquor and beer distributors got together to sort of rewrite a lot of Wisconsin's laws governing the sale, the production, and the distribution of alcohol. It was largely done in secret, behind closed doors, as part of a pretty opaque budget process.
We were more than $500,000 in on equipment. We were looking at a monthly burn of about $20,000 a month. We were really backed into this corner of we had no idea what we were going to do. My dad actually made the comment of, well, what if I took over ownership of the business? And he said, as long as you never ask me to wear lederhosen, I'll do it. The state of Wisconsin said, sure, if you are not the owner of the business, we won't have a problem with that. So we then started jumping through the hoops to have the licenses changed. I got a call out of the blue from the regulator, and he told me, we're not going to give your dad the permit because you, William E., are listed on the federal permit as being a key holder and a management employee in the business. So I couldn't own the business, and I also legally couldn't work for the business. And we're back in this spot, like, you people just don't want us to have a license. Like, you want us to just be done. You want us to be out of business. I asked the regulator, hey, what if I don't work? What if I'm just not on the payroll at all? And finally they said, okay, fine. That's fine, but you have to have your name off of that federal permit or we're not gonna issue the state permit. And finally, after about 9 months of going back and forth with the state of Wisconsin, my father was issued a permit where I could work for the brewery, but only in a volunteer capacity so that we could have a permit. It was crazy. Between all of the money that we lost when we weren't operational, the tens of thousands of dollars that we were spending on attorneys who couldn't help us out, losing financing because of the ownership structure, not being eligible for loans. It took us 3 to 4 years longer to finance this entire project. I didn't have an income for the first 5 years of this business's existence. I think that we are literally talking about millions of dollars over the life of this business that will be lost as a result of us not being able to do what we should have been able to do.
At AFP, our mission is to make sure that every American has an opportunity to achieve their own unique version of the American dream. We get to be a voice for the voiceless. And that was certainly the case here. We had a situation where the small brewers of the state, the wineries, the distilleries, for years, they had not had a seat at the table. The big guys ran the show. And we saw an opportunity to use the resources we have, the activist base that we have, to step in and change things. The first time I think I heard about Will Glass's story was from Senator Ron Johnson. At the time, he had been doing a series trying to promote the problems of overregulation on small businesses in Wisconsin. And I thought, this is the story I've been looking for. To be able to build that narrative, to build that momentum, to build that grassroots energy to change things for the better for craft brewers in Wisconsin.
My journey through this shifted to I have to change these laws. I have to make it so that this works for me and it works for my family and that nobody else has to deal with this in the future. I didn't put on body armor in a third world country to protect this system that keeps people from liberty. I met with some legislators who quite literally said that there's nothing I can do for you. A very powerful legislator very specifically said, and anybody who's thinking about getting involved with AFP, don't, because they're gonna burn the whole thing down. I thought, I need to figure out who AFP is because we wanted to burn the whole thing down. We needed the system to be rebuilt from the bottom up. It wasn't until after we started talking with Eric and the Americans for Prosperity group that the tone changed. We started to see this interest in, okay, what can we make happen?
We launched a campaign called the Fermenting Up Freedom campaign. And we partnered with breweries and wineries all over Wisconsin. What we discovered was that they had a superpower they didn't even know they had, and that's their customer base. It's grassroots. Thousands turned into tens of thousands of citizens standing up and saying, no, don't overregulate these guys. And we brought in their local state representatives and state senators, and we'd have conversations. We provided that opportunity to connect the people to the representatives. And it's amazing after you have a few hundred or a few thousand conversations with voters, how quickly lawmakers change their mind about bad ideas.
Tonight proposed sweeping changes to regulating Wisconsin's alcohol industry, some of the most significant in decades.
We found ourselves from always being on the defense to suddenly having a seat at the table and have a say in how the legislature was going to create this new regulatory system. It was the first time ever in Wisconsin that positive change had happened that we were involved in.
This legislative win, it removes the barriers. In the past, you had to jump through hoops. That's gone now. We have clarity, and we have the ability for small business owners and entrepreneurs to unlock creativity.
I think that what I'm the most proud of is knowing that nobody's going to have this thought of, am I going to have to get divorced to be able to start my business? That doesn't exist anymore. No one else will have to go through what we went through to get their American dream. We would not have been able to get to where we are today without AFP. There's strength in numbers. When you get people together with a common objective and a common goal, everything becomes a lot easier. It's easier to move a mountain when you've got friends. So every morning I'm getting here at about 7:30 to try to beat as many people in as I can to start getting our production schedule set and set people up for success for the day. So we've got obviously a run going right now. It's loud. We're taking empty cans, bringing them down, cleaning them out, and then filling them up with product. We put the Man in the Arena quote up as a reminder that life is hard. It's going to be difficult, but at the end of the day, you just got to keep fighting. You got to keep moving forward, because without that effort, we wouldn't get anywhere.
Something that's really impressed me about Will is how steadfast he's been. It's hard for a small business owner to drive 2, 3, 4 hours each way to Madison to try to fight to keep the doors open. And Will stuck it out the whole time. He saw it through. He stayed in the fight for the next guy. Will is truly the man in the arena.
The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, who strives valiantly, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who spends himself in a worthy cause,